Yo, Elliot. Yo, so today's question's from my bro, David Binford. He goes on to say, yo, Elliot, I have an issue I've been dealing with for a while now. I just started strength training a couple of months ago. I have severe anterior pelvic tilt. Every lift I do makes my low back hurt, and I really believe it's because of the tilt. Squats and presses hurt it the most. Will my strength training eventually fix this, or do I need to add to the routine? So you're correct. You will be needing to add some things to your routine, and you also would benefit you to swap out certain exercises like the squats and the overhead presses, or to do them in a different way, and I'm going to show you how first. But before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about this common imbalance, one that I personally have dealt with, and probably most people at some way, shape, or form. So when he talks about an anterior pelvic tilt, right? So we got a pelvis, right? And the pelvis tilts, right? You can tilt back and forth, right? That's what we did, all right? We're tilting the pelvis. We could do a posterior pelvic tilt, which basically means that it tilts up to the front, right? Tilts up to the front, boom. But then an anterior tilt is when it tips back like this. So it almost is like a Donald Duck situation where the butt flips up. Part of the reason why that happens is because there's weakness down in here. The stabilizer, the pelvic stabilizer in the front of the body. Well, because those are muscles and they're attached to organs, when we eat foods that cause inflammation, a lot of times those muscles shut off. So a lot of people have what's called motor sensory amnesia in the muscles in their pelvic floor, especially the lower abdominals, that help you do this, that help you brace and pull your butt underneath. Boom, like that. You see? I hope you can see it because it's black on black, right? Not black on black crime, but black on black video. You can't see. So, but anyway, so we want to get this butt to tuck under just a little bit so that it's neutral, right? We don't want to be completely pulled under, right? And we definitely don't want to be totally pushed back. Just imagine when you push back, if you axial load, right? Axial load means coming from the top, right? Top down. If I have an ass that's tucked out like that, right? And everything's tipping forward, and I put weight on my back, it's going to crush that. It's going to compress that spine, and it's going to force that lumbar lordosis, that's what they call it. That lumbar lordosis is gonna push it even further into you're gonna squish it, right? And at some point, it's gonna wanna, you could end up with like a disc bulge, an anterior disc bulge, right? Boom, it goes like that, boom. So you're gonna have problems if your ass sticks out like that, right? More booty, more problems. So, a few things that you want to take into consideration. I will first tell you how to modify those squats and presses so that you're not causing more problems. When you back squat, right, and you have that weight on your back, you have to extend. You have to do a lot of lumbar extension, right, to keep that bar in its over your base of support, right? So you gotta do a lot of this. And you might find that as you stick your ass out and try to keep your chest up, you're gonna just be tearing that back up. But if you do front squats, you put the weight in front, more of the extension happens in the thoracic rather than the lumbar. Front squats force more thoracic extension, and therefore you could even tuck your butt under while you're doing front squats, right? Because it's more of a knee movement, it's more of a knee bend movement. Back squats is more of a butt movement, right? You smelling my butt? More of a butt movement, where front squats, you can see me, it's more of a knee movement, right? You're here, and you can get more of this going on, and it takes a lot of the pressure off the back. So front squats rather than back squats. You can even start with like goblet squats with like a dumbbell or kettlebell in front of you. So stop doing back squats, start doing front squats. That'll alleviate some of the pressure. Also, overhead press. A lot of time when people overhead press, there's a lot of extension, right? They stick their butt out when they're coming over their head. I would suggest you do, and I made a video about this last week, you do floor presses, right? Not floor presses like bench presses, but where you sit on the floor, stick your butt in the corner of the wall, and then you slide, I think they call them slides. You slide your arms straight up and down. What that's gonna do is gonna keep you in a neutral spine. You wanna keep a neutral spine. You don't want a hyperlordosis when you press over your head. You want a neutral spine. And you can do that by putting your back against the wall, or you can do it by being seated when you do your dumbbell press. The whole key is don't let there be a big gap right here, right? Don't let there be a big gap right here. You want this to be sort of flat. Those are two exercise modifications. But what you might want to add to your program are lower abdominal and bracing exercises, right? So the end of your workouts, you want to do a lower abdominal exercise where you lay on your back, right? Let me try to demonstrate it. Right, it's good that you do it on the floor. I'm going to show you here on the bench. It's okay, cease. Right, I'm going to show you here on the bench real quick. Because I want you to understand something. When you're doing this, I want you to keep your back real flat. You put your hands underneath your back. Keep your back real flat. And you're just going to lower 1 foot at a time. The key is to continue to put pressure down on your hands, right? So that there's none of this. If you're doing it and there's a whole lot of arch there, you see that big arch, right? You're doing it wrong, you're using a lot of hip flexors. But when you do it this way, you're stabilizing with your abdominals and the hip flexors are releasing as you go down, right? So that's a really good low abdominal exercise. It's gonna help stabilize your pelvis. That's gonna eliminate a lot of that excess curvature in your lumbar spine. The other thing that you can do are planks, right? Seen planks before? All right, when you do a plank, I can't do it on here. But do a plank, right? Do a plank on the floor. And then, again, if you're sagging in your low back, then you're resting on your posterior ligamentous system. You need to tuck that butt under and raise your hips up. Does that make sense? So rather than sagging, right? Look at this. A lot of people, they do planks and they sag. I want you to tuck this and then raise up. So just little modifications. Both of those exercises you should be able to do pain-free. When you swap the front squat for the back squat and you do the presses the way I said, you should be able to do those exercises completely pain-free. Those are exercises, if you're wanting to add stretching to your routine, it would be a good idea to stretch those hip flexors, bro. Stretch your hip flexors, bro. Right? How do you stretch your hip flexors? One of the ways is something like this, right? Like you want to, see if I can demonstrate a little bit here, right? Something like this, where you extend. There's a full extension here, right? And you reach over the top. Boom. You can do it from the floor. You can also have this foot up on something. Boom. And then you feel that stretch all through the front of your thigh. That will help. That will help you because the hip flexors are actually low back muscles. Did you know that? Hip flexors are attached to the low back, and then they come around and they attach to the medial part of your femur. So if they're tight, what are they gonna do? Imagine, from here to here, they're gonna pull your ass out. Right? Right, Remy? He's doing it too. But if they open up, your hips will drop and they'll swing more freely. So hope that helps, dude. Done.